Hi, this is Kuldeep Gupta from CloudFronts Technologies, and I work here as a Senior Project Manager. Welcome all to the demonstration of project management solution for CloudFronts. Let me take you through the features that the solution offers, like project setup, manage project, resource allocation, time entry management, and invoicing. But before we actually start creating the project, we need to do a small configuration setting. This is the one-time setting that you need to do after you purchase the product. The settings include the start time and end time of your office, the working days, the number of hours we work in a day, the mileage rate that we charge the client when we travel to the client location, project code prefix, as in the project number that gets prefixed with the code specified herewith, the billing address. That's it. Now we are ready to create the projects. For that, let me take you through project management. We click on the projects. I'll see a list of active projects that I'm managing. So this is the active projects view. Similarly, you can view all the completed projects, inactive projects, not started projects, etc. Let's create a new project. For that, we click on a new button and a form opens. It asks us for some basic details to create a project, like the name of the project, specific CRM implementation. We mark the status of the project, whether it is an active project, completed, not started, or inactive. We select the client, say it is Synergy Software Systems. We mark the status of the project, whether it is internal or an external project. The progress rolls up from the time entry that we do. We can add description to the project. We select the start date and end date of the project, which is, let's say the project starts from 23rd of May and end at 31st of August. We select the primary contact, that's Stephen Jones. Remaining fields are locked out as they are rolled up from the actuals, like the time entry and the allocation that we do while creating the work breakdown structure. Once you save the project, it creates a shell for you and gets the system ready to manage it. This is also the time when the project is allocated a project number. Once this is done, you see a pop-up that comes which asks us to navigate to the project management page, where we can actually manage the entire project from a single place. Let's go there and see what exactly it has for us. This is a wizard which leads us through each step of project creation in an organized manner. First step is to do the required skill set selection for the project. For example, I require C#, JavaScript, and CRM as a skill set. Then I select them and add them appropriately to the project. Once I add them, the skill sets are grayed out. That means they are added to the project. The next step is to do the skill set team selection. The advantage to do the skill set selection before proceeding towards team selection is that you can filter the team members that have the required skill set. This loads the entire team of the entire organization. If you hover over the skills of the team member, you get to see the proficiency in each of the areas. You also are able to see their availability during the tenure of the project and make the right selection of the team. The next step, let's say we select a few team members. Say I want to add Mihir, I want to add Somesh, and let's say Subhash. I'll add them to the project. Let's move on to the next step, that is the billing code. These are the resource codes that we normally bill the client against each task. You can specify the rates for each of the billing codes, select them and add them to the project. Let's say in this case my developer is getting charged at $100 per hour. and project manager is getting charged at $150 per hour. I edit the rates, select them and add them to the project. Moving on to the next stage, which is an important stage in project creation, is creating the Gantt chart. Here we create the work breakdown structure for the project, list down tasks, assign start dates and dates for each one of them, and add the hours required for those tasks. Let's create a few tasks like analysis, design, documentation, development, UAT, and go live. Let's assume the analysis is going to take 10 days of time in the span of 80 hours. Design will take around 5 days of time for 40 hours. Documentation takes 2 days for 16 hours. Likewise, you can make the modifications for all the tasks. You can assign the predecessor to each of the tasks which specified that, let's say, the task design is gonna get done after the analysis is over. So you can add the predecessor to design, which is 2, since the analysis stands at second number. On the left hand side, if you observe, the tasks have some color dots that show up the status of them, whether they are active, completed, not started, or inactive. On the double click of the tasks, you see that the first tab provides you the general information of the task, that is the name of the project, the start date, the end date of that task. The days and the progress are logged out. You can change the hours of the task, change the status, add a little description to the task, and more importantly, mark the start date or the end date as milestone. Upon doing that, the project managers and the resource are allocated to the task. The next step is to add the billing code that we selected from the wizard. The number of hours multiplied by the rate will roll up on the main project form and will give you the actual budget for that task. The next step, let's say we add developer for 40 hours, since analysis is for 80 hours and the project manager is going to be doing this equal amount of work, 40 hours. So the hours multiplied by the rate over here will roll up to the budget. The next step is to allocate the resource for this task. This ensures that only the selected resource has access to the task. In this case, let me allocate Mihir and Somesh to this task. Once I've done with all the necessary modifications, I save this dialog so the task has the required access and the billing codes. Once we have done with all the modifications for all these tasks, do not forget to save the Gantt chart. The next step is to do the resource allocation. Here we see all the resources that we had selected for the project. We also see some colors on the screen. The green indicate that the resource is available on that date. The yellow indicate that the resource is partially or completely booked for that day. The red indicate that they are overbooked on a particular date. If you hover over the resource, you shall see the project and the hours they are booked on. But if you double click on that, you will see the complete details about the project, the tasks, and whether they are billable or non-billable for that particular task. Before allocating the resource, you can also intimate them or have a word with them about the allocation being made. For that, you can click on the icon that opens up the Skype for Business, have a word with them, intimate them about the allocation, and make the allocations. So let's proceed to allocate a particular resource. Once you click on the edit button, let's allocate Subhash. You need to select the task that you have to allocate him to. Let's say we select analysis. We see a few details that the task duration is for 80 hours. The pending to allocate is 80. That means we have not made any allocation to this task. You see the start date and end date for that task. So let's say I want to allocate him for 40 hours and I click on allocate. I see a couple of options below. First is split by availability, which is a default option. The other two are split equally and split manually, which are self-explanatory. Split manually gives you a little flexibility to add the allocations per day as required. So let us click on split by availability and save the allocations. You see that Subhash is allocated between 23rd to 27th by 8 hours per day. So now the necessary allocation has been done. So with this, we are now done with the project creation and also the resource allocation for that task. The next step is the list of tasks that we created in the Gantt chart in a tabular manner, with some additional details like the project progress, the budgeted hours, the actual hours, and the status of the task. The next step is go to project, which actually takes us to the landing page where you actually started to create your project. We can always go back to manage your project by clicking on the manage project button, which is right here in the ribbon. Next, we shall see how to enter time in the system. For that, we need to click on the project management menu. We have timesheets. The timesheet has the timesheet number, the status, whether the timesheet is in progress or submitted, the start date and the end date of that timesheet. This start date and end date is the start of the week and the end of the week, which comes from configurations. Let's start making a time entry. For that, we select the project, which is Pacific CRM implementation. We select the task, let's say analysis. We have the billing codes that we selected and click on add. Once you click on add, this opens a dialog box where you will see that you can enter time as well as expense together in the same dialog. Add hours if you want minutes, and add a comment to the time entry. We mark the task as billable or non-billable. On the expense entry, select the category of expense you have done. If it is mileage, then enter the number of miles you have traveled. Let's say 10 miles. So this will be multiplied with the mileage rate per hours that is fetched from the configuration. So the total amount makes it to $10. You can add required comments like travel to client location and select whether the expense is billable or reimbursable. Billable adds this to the invoice that we make to the client. Once you save the entry, you shall see that the time and expense are shown together, segregated with different icons, one for time and one for expense. Once you're done with the time and expense entry submission, the project manager can check the unapproved entries and approve them. For that, in order to approve the unapproved entries, go to project management, unapproved time entries, select the project, select the entries. In case the project manager feels the need to change the time entry before approving, he can double click on the particular time entry and make the necessary modification, save it and close it. Here I do not want to make any modifications, so let's proceed. I select the entry and click on approve. The time entry is now approved for the billing administrator to invoice them. The billing administrator can go to project invoicing to further invoice it to the client. The billing administrator selects the respective project, sees the time entries that have been approved by the project manager to invoice, and click on the invoice. Once we have clicked on the invoice, it shows up a pop-up that asks us to navigate to the invoice entity. We have used here the out-of-the-box invoice entity to create the invoices. After the invoice is created, you see you can extract the report and send it to the customer in the desired format. This report can be customized as per the customer's need. This is all about the project management solution for CloudFronts. In case of any further integration requirements or queries, do not hesitate to reach us at support@cloudfronts.com or dial in on the below mentioned number on the screen. Thank you.